Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something today. Sometimes a man will stand tall, smile wide, and walk around like he's on top of the world, like he's done moved on. Oh, he'll post him pictures, hang with new people, maybe even tell you directly, I'm good, I'm over it. But deep down inside, he's fighting a storm you can't see. See, moving on ain't about what you say, it's about what you show. And too many people act like they've let go when really they're still holding on with both hands behind their back. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get real tonight. You see, people got this thing they do. They pretend. They act like they've moved on, like they've let go, like they're living their best life now that you're out the picture. But deep inside, they still stuck in that same place where you left them. That's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Pretending to move on is one of the oldest defense mechanisms in the book. It's a shield, a wall they build high so nobody can see the pain behind it. Because admitting that you're still hurting, that you're still missing somebody, that you still check your phone hoping for a message, well, that makes you look weak. And nobody wants to look weak, especially not when pride is standing in the way. See, when a man acts like he's moved on, pay attention to how much effort he puts into making sure everybody knows it. That's the first clue. He's louder now. He's more active on social media. He's suddenly got all these new friends, new plans, new goals. It's not that he's really grown, it's that he's running from the feelings he's too afraid to face, running from the silence that reminds him of what he lost. So he keeps himself busy, keeps himself surrounded by noise, because quiet moments, that's when the truth creeps in. That's when the mask slips. Let me tell you something. When people really move on, they don't need to prove it to the world. They're too busy living in peace. They're too busy healing. But when they're pretending, they go out of their way to show you they're fine, because they're not. Because that act is not for them, it's for you. It's for their friends. It's for anyone who might suspect that they're still broken inside. That's what defense mechanisms do. They protect the heart from facing pain too deep to handle all at once. But here's where it gets tricky. When someone pretends long enough, they start believing their own story. They convince themselves that they're over it, that they've moved forward, even when every part of their behavior says otherwise. They'll tell themselves, I don't care anymore, even as they check your profile at midnight. They'll say, she's nothing to me now, even as they feel that sting when your name comes up. And they'll walk around with this armor so heavy, so thick, that nobody can get close enough to see the cracks underneath. It's survival. That's what it is. It's not about strength, it's about survival. Because if they let themselves feel that heartbreak fully, if they admit that they're still in pain, they're afraid they might not recover. So they build up this image, this strong, independent, unbothered image, and they wear it every day like a uniform. But it costs them. It costs them their peace. It costs them real healing, because you can't heal from what you refuse to admit. You can't move on from something you keep pretending never touched you. And deep down, they know it. Deep down, in the moments when nobody's watching, they feel that emptiness. They feel that ache that all the parties, all the new faces, all the distractions can't fix. And that's why they get defensive when someone points it out. That's why they double down on the act, because facing the truth feels like facing defeat. But the real defeat is staying stuck in that cycle of pretending. Ladies and gentlemen, when you see someone acting like they moved on, understand that acting and being are two different things. Acting is loud. Acting needs an audience. Being is quiet. Being is peace. And 9 times out of 10, when somebody's putting on that big show, it's because they're still fighting a battle inside, a battle they don't want anyone to see. So they pretend, they perform, they defend, but pretending to move on is just a temporary shelter. It ain't home. And until they drop the act and face their pain, they're never really free. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something I've learned after watching people for years. Words can lie, but actions always tell the truth. A man can look you in the eye and say he's over you. He can swear up and down that you mean nothing to him anymore. But if you really want to know the truth, don't listen to what he says, watch what he does. Actions are the real language of the heart. And when somebody is still caught up, when they're still holding on, even though their mouth says they let go, it shows. It shows in the little things they think nobody notices. See, when someone is truly moved on, they're not checking for you. They're not watching your every move. They're not bringing your name up in every conversation. But when somebody's pretending, when they're acting like they're fine, but their heart says otherwise, you'll catch it in their behavior. They'll get tense when you walk into the room. Their energy will shift when somebody mentions you. Maybe they go out of their way to avoid you, or maybe they go out of their way to make sure you notice them. Either way, that's not peace. That's not freedom. That's unfinished business. You see, people think they're slick. They think that by keeping their words cold and sharp, they can convince the world they've moved on. But if they're still watching your stories, still popping up in places they know you'll be, still sending little signals through mutual friends, that's not letting go. That's lingering. That's holding on in disguise. And the reason it shows is because feelings, real feelings, are hard to bury. You can cover them up for a while, but they have a way of slipping through the cracks when you least expect it. A look, a gesture, a sudden mood change. These are the signs that tell the real story. Sometimes it's even in the people they hang around. If every new person they date looks like you, talks like you, or reminds them of you in some way, that's not coincidence. That's their heart trying to replace what it lost without dealing with the pain. Or maybe they go the opposite route, picking someone completely different just to prove a point, just to show the world they're over you. But again, that's action speaking louder than words. Because if they really moved on, they wouldn't need to prove anything to anybody. They'd just be living their life in peace, not trying to send a message. Pay attention to how they react when they hear about your success, when they see you smiling, when they realize you're doing fine without them. Do they get bitter? Do they start competing? Do they suddenly want to show off how happy they are? That's not strength. That's a crack in the armor. That's their pain leaking out through their actions. And no matter how many times they say they don't care, their behavior keeps telling a different story. Sometimes even silence is an action. When they go quiet but still find ways to make sure you notice their absence, that's a move, that's a statement, and it speaks volumes. Because at the end of the day, you can't fake peace. You can't fake real healing. It either shows in your actions or it doesn't. And too many people get caught up in the words and the declarations, forgetting that the truth is always written in behavior. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't let sweet talk or cold words fool you. Look at the pattern. Look at the energy. Look at the little signs they can't hide no matter how hard they try. because that's where the real story is. A man who's truly moved on, he's consistent, he's calm, he's unbothered. But a man who's still wrestling with feelings he won't admit, he's messy, he's reactive, and his actions will keep telling on him every single time. That's why they say actions speak louder than words, because the heart will always find a way to show itself, even when the mouth tries to shut it down. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about real healing tonight. See, real healing is a quiet thing. It doesn't need to shout, it doesn't need to prove itself, and it sure doesn't carry around bitterness like a badge of honor. When somebody is truly healed, there's no anger left in their heart for the person who hurt them. There's no hidden emotion bubbling under the surface, waiting to explode. Real healing is calm, is steady, it feels like peace deep down in your soul, and it shows in how you carry yourself every single day. Now, let me tell you what real healing does not look like. It doesn't look like throwing little jabs every time your name comes up. It doesn't look like trying to outshine you just to feel better. It doesn't look like bringing up old wounds to make sure everybody knows they were the victim. No, that's not healing. That's holding on. That's someone who is still chained to the pain they claim they've left behind. And here's the thing. As long as there's bitterness, as long as there's anger, as long as there are feelings they have to push down and hide, they haven't healed. They're still in it, whether they admit it or not. When a man is really moved on and healed, he can see you happy and feel no sting. He can hear your name and not flinch. He can wish you well without it tasting bitter in his mouth. That's what real healing looks like. But if every time you succeed, he feels the need to remind the world that he's better off without you, that's a sign. If he still gets upset, still gets defensive, still feels the need to prove something, that's not healing. That's pain dressed up in pride. And you know why that happens? Because too many people try to skip the real work of healing. They want to rush through it. They want to slap a smile on their face and call it done. But they never sit with their feelings. They never face the hurt head on. So what happens? That pain goes underground. It hides, but it doesn't disappear. It turns into resentment. It turns into bitterness. And before they know it, it's controlling their actions, even though they're trying to pretend it's gone. But real healing is different. Real healing means you faced that storm inside you and made peace with it. It means you cried those tears in private. You asked yourself the hard questions and you let go of the anger, not because the other person deserved it, but because you deserved peace. That's what healing is. It's choosing your own well-being over the weight of resentment. And when you've done that, there's no need for games, no need for competition, no need for hidden emotions. You're free. You're light. And your actions will show that. So when you see somebody still playing those games, still throwing shade, still needing attention, you can be sure they haven't done the work. They're still carrying that baggage. And the longer they carry it, the heavier it gets. Because bitterness doesn't heal you, it drains you. It keeps you tied to the past. And as long as there's even a little bit of hidden emotion left, real peace will always be out of reach. That's why you'll never see someone who's truly healed acting out of spite. You'll never see them caught up in drama because they've risen above it. They found their peace and they protect it. Their healing has created space for joy, for growth, for love, and there's no room left for bitterness in that space. So don't let the noise fool you. Don't let the loudness and the anger confuse you into thinking that's strength. Because real strength, real healing is silent. It's soft but powerful. It doesn't need revenge. It doesn't need validation. It stands on its own, steady and unshaken. So remember, when someone has truly healed, you'll know it not by what they say, but by what's missing. The anger, the resentment, the hidden emotions. Those things will be gone, replaced by something far greater, peace. And that peace, that's the clearest sign that the healing is real. Ladies and gentlemen, let's be real tonight. The deepest the lover you are will be eternally. For the first time, you won't even bless your things in proportion as you give. The love and getting, they don't care what you do. They won't be questioning that. They'll make sure that you are fully the pain, because real love leaves marks. It changes you. And if that pain is not dealt with, if those feelings are not faced and healed, they don't just disappear. They show up in everything you do. You can see it in the way someone talks. Maybe they say they've moved on, but their words are still laced with bitterness. They can't mention your name without a little extra sting in their voice. Or maybe they act like they're too cool, too unaffected, but there's an edge there, a tightness, like they're holding something back. That's not peace. That's pain hiding behind a wall. And sooner or later, that wall starts to crack, because feelings that powerful can't stay locked away forever. Sometimes it shows up in how they treat other people. A man who hasn't healed from the pain of lost love will carry that weight into his next relationship. He might get jealous too quickly, or he might push people away before they can get too close. He might become cold, distant, like he's protecting himself from feeling that hurt again. But the truth is, he's not protecting himself. He's trapping himself in a cycle of fear and unresolved feelings that keep showing up over and over in his behavior. Even when he's alone, you can see the signs. He's restless. He can't sit still. He's always chasing something, success, attention, validation, because the quiet moments remind him of what he's still carrying inside. Love, when it's unresolved, turns into a kind of ache that lingers. It becomes a shadow that follows him around, even when he's trying to run in the opposite direction. And that shadow, it shows up at the most unexpected times. In the middle of a conversation, in the way his mood suddenly shifts, when a memory flashes back, in the late night moments when everything goes still and he has to face the silence. And sometimes that pain turns into anger, because anger is easier to deal with than sadness. Anger makes you feel strong, while sadness makes you feel vulnerable. So instead of admitting he's still hurting, he lashes out, he gets defensive, he tries to tear you down, because in his mind, that makes him feel powerful again. But underneath all that anger is the same old pain, raw and unresolved. And the longer he avoids it, the louder it gets. The more it controls his actions without him even realizing. Ladies and gentlemen, love is powerful. It digs deep into your heart. And when it's broken, that break leaves cracks that don't just heal overnight. If those cracks aren't mended with honesty, reflection, and forgiveness, not just for you, but for himself, then they stay open. And everything he does, every relationship he touches, gets colored by that damage. You'll see it in the walls he builds, in the distance he keeps, in the trust he refuses to give, because unresolved feelings don't stay quiet. They scream through his behavior, through the choices he makes, through the people he hurts along the way. That's why it's so important to face the pain when love ends, to really sit with it, to feel it fully, no matter how much it hurts. Because only then can it be released. Only then can the heart start to heal and make room for something new. But when a man refuses to do that, when he shoves those feelings down and pretends they're gone, they keep showing up in his anger, in his fear, in his inability to connect. And no amount of pretending can hide it for long. Love and pain, they are two sides of the same coin. And until the pain is faced, until the heart is cleaned out and healed, those feelings will continue to leak into every corner of his life, and they will keep showing up no matter how hard he tries to pretend they don't exist. Ladies and gentlemen, let's call it like it is. In this world we're living in now, social media has become the stage where everybody puts on their best performance. And when somebody is acting like they've moved on, when they're still hurting inside but trying to cover it up, you better believe their social media becomes their favorite weapon. That's where they put on the biggest show, because it's easy to craft an image online. It's easy to post pictures smiling with new people, to write captions about peace and freedom, to share quotes about self-love and growth. But none of that tells the real story. The truth isn't in the posts. The truth is in the quiet moments when the camera is off. See, when somebody has really moved on, they don't need to prove it to the world. They don't need to post every little thing they do. They're living their life and they're doing it for themselves, not for an audience. But when someone is still stuck, when they're still battling those feelings inside, they get loud. They flood their page with pictures. They share stories that are meant to look effortless, but really they're carefully crafted to send a message. And that message is, look at me, I'm fine without you. But deep down, that message is not for the world, it's for you. It's their way of trying to convince themselves that they've let go. You see them suddenly become extra active, showing off every move they make. They're at every party, they're posting every meal, they're tagging themselves at every event. But real happiness doesn't need an audience. Real peace doesn't require validation. It just is. When you're truly content, you don't care who's watching. But when you're pretending, you care a whole lot. You want to make sure the right people see it, especially the one you're trying to get a reaction from. That's why these public displays are often exaggerated. They're loud because they're hiding something quiet and painful inside. And it's not just the posts, it's the timing too. Pay attention to when these displays show up. Right after you post something happy, right after you're seen with someone new. That's not coincidence, that's strategy. That's someone playing the game, trying to match your moves and stay one step ahead. But in doing all that, they're exposing the fact that they're still caught up, still reacting, still deeply affected by what they claim they've moved on from. Even the friends they hang around with start playing a role in this act. Suddenly, they're always surrounded by people, always in a crowd, because being alone means facing the truth, and that's the last thing they want. So they keep the noise going, they keep the show running, But no matter how many likes, no matter how many views, that emptiness inside doesn't go away. Because you can't heal through performance. You can't replace real growth with curated posts and staged photos. Healing happens in the dark when nobody's watching. It happens when you stop trying to win the breakup and start facing your own reflection. So remember, when somebody's social media looks too perfect, too polished, too much like they're trying to prove a point, it usually means the opposite is true. Because peace is quiet. Growth is steady. Real moving on doesn't need an audience. It's the loudest ones, the ones putting on the biggest show, who often have the most unresolved pain hiding underneath. And no filter, no caption, no public display can change that truth. Ladies and gentlemen, one thing I need you to understand is this. Healing isn't something you can rush. It's not something that can be faked, no matter how hard you try to convince others or yourself that you're over it. Healing is a deeply personal journey. It's messy, it's painful, and it takes time. But that's the beauty of it. It's yours and nobody else's. And when you try to rush through it, when you try to skip over the hard parts just to look okay, you're only delaying the inevitable. The truth is, the longer you avoid the pain, the longer it stays with you. People often try to rush healing because they don't want to face the raw, vulnerable parts of themselves. It's uncomfortable to sit with your emotions, to feel that emptiness, to confront the parts of you that feel broken. It's easier to put on a smile, pretend like everything is fine, and push forward with the belief that time will do all the work for you. But that's the problem. Time doesn't heal anything on its own. It's what you do with the time that matters. It's what you decide to face during that time that makes all the difference. You can't fake healing, no matter how many distractions you throw in your path, no matter how much you try to convince everyone and yourself that you've moved on. Your actions will always give you away. You'll still find yourself thinking about that person late at night. You'll still feel that pit in your stomach when you hear their name. You'll still see glimpses of your old life together and feel that tug of regret or longing. And that's okay. It's normal. It's part of the process. But when you try to act like it's not happening, when you avoid feeling all those things because you're afraid of the pain, you're not healing. You're just delaying it. Healing isn't about putting on a brave face or pretending like you're not affected. It's about being real with yourself, facing the hurt, and allowing yourself to feel everything that comes with it. It's about accepting that, yes, you're going to hurt, and yes, it's going to take time. But the moment you allow yourself to truly feel it, to sit with it, and experience it, you're already starting the journey of healing. Because healing begins when you stop running from the pain, when you stop pretending that it doesn't hurt, and when you stop expecting it to just magically go away. And here's the truth. Healing will not be a straight line. It won't be pretty. It won't be smooth. You'll have days where you feel like you're making progress, and then you'll have days where the pain feels just as fresh as it did the first time. That's normal. That's part of the process. It's not a linear path. It's not something you can predict or control. But if you stick with it, if you let yourself go through the messy, ugly parts, you'll come out the other side stronger, more whole, and more at peace. The rushing the process, pretending that it doesn't matter, and trying to speed up the journey, that's what gets people stuck. That's what keeps people trapped in a cycle of pretending and performing. They're so focused on looking like they've got it all together, so concerned with what others think, that they forget to take the time to actually heal. Healing doesn't happen on a timeline that fits your convenience. It doesn't work according to the schedules we try to impose on it. It's a journey that's as unique as the person walking it. So the next time you find yourself or someone you know trying to rush through the pain, trying to fake it until they make it, remember this. True healing happens when you stop trying to run away from the hurt and start accepting it. The road may be long, the road may be tough, but that's where the real growth happens. And in the end, it's the healing that lasts. It's the healing that brings peace. And that peace is worth every moment of discomfort, every step of the journey,